Okay, so yeah, following last week's episode, we basically got a full view of Luffy's new Gear 5, the awakened power of his Devil Fruit, Sun God Nika. And right out of the gate, supposedly Toei outsourced a lot of moments with Gear 5 out to Warner Brothers and got some Looney Tunes animators to help them in regards to the more zany and cartoony elements of the episode in regards to the Gear 5 transformation and the fight itself. And you can kind of tell that just from how we actually got to see a fair amount of, like, in very goofy and zany, very creative shots with the more zanier side of Luffy's personality mixed with Joy Boy, and it made for a great episode. As again, we get to see the transformation in full, and honestly, Toei did pretty much knock this one out of the park. Like, I know Twitter was complaining about Luffy's hair covering his face in the last episode, and I'm sure there will be whiny Twitter complaints had for this episode in some regard, but for the most part, aside from a bit of a problem which I'll get into later, art, animation, and just visual direction in general, Toei really pulled this off, and they really pulled out all stops to say Joy Boy is here, the drums of liberation are booming, and he's ready to kick Kaido's ass, much to the hilarious chagrin of the Five Elder Stars, which I know I said before, but when the episode does cut to Marie Joie and the Elder Stars fearfully lamenting the return of Joy Boy and the awakening of the Gum Gum's powers, the human fruit, Sun God Nika, it was like all I could think of at that time was like, well, congrats on the self-fulfilling prophecy, dumbasses. What did you think was going to happen? You play stupid games, you get stupid prizes, and this is your stupid prize. The Gum Gum Fruit's awakened, Sun God Nika's out. Deal with it. And yeah, and that is me like genuinely asking, because they would have had to known trying to kill Luffy would only help in awakening Nika if the fruit is that powerful. And on this, but I digress. But again, getting back to the outsourcing of outsourcing this episode to WB, though, the animators that worked on this episode from WB definitely earned their paycheck in my mind, as they went all out in showing just how zany and insane the power Luffy now has and what it's capable of. Like Luffy turning the ground to rubber, which does lead into the more out of pocket Looney Tunes-esque moments of like Luffy's eyes popping out of their skulls and seeing Kaido's blast breath, or Kaido like getting bonked on the head, getting a big cartoony lump and seeing stars after, like all these little moments are like great in themselves and just kind of serve that, yeah, this is the kind of power that the Gum Gum Fruit truly has once it's awakened. And moments like this, while I can understand why they're distracting for some, I think really show that, on top of the fact that like the Looney Tunes and One Piece are really just a match made in heaven, I think these moments are kind of important to just show just how much Joy Boy as an entity represents I guess you could say the first joyous spirit of liberation. Like Joy Boy as an entity truly believes in the idea of freedom, laughter, and just liberate, and through liberation. And it's like that is kind of everything that Luffy has become. That is who Joy Boy is, and I do kind of like how it gives us of what Joy Boy is like for those who wield this power. I also like how Toei went the extra mile of making Luffy look as if he's kind of an outright demon through a split second of his body being covered in shadow, and like the mix of color really made him look terrifying even with the goofiness of the powers. Like it's something I didn't notice before, but look, I have to look back on, but it really does look kind of terrifying in a lot of ways. With that said, though, the part of this episode that actually surprised me the most, honestly, and no joke on this, is the moment between Hiyori and Orochi. I'm not joking. Like I remember, like this is a moment I remember reading in the manga that these were the parts of the episode that made me say Wano was kind of starting to drag its feet a bit, even with the major reveal of Joy Boy's return. But whether it's through like the voice actors or the scene direction, I do find myself much more captivated find myself much more captivated by this whole scene between Orochi and Hiyori than I was in the manga, and I think it's because Hiyori Seiyu really just sells the anger, frustration, and sadness she feels over the loss of her father, and just the pure, unrestrained anger, contempt, and just anger and contempt she has towards Orochi. She doesn't even care if she goes along with him. She has resolved herself to see him die, even if she's resolved herself to see him die here and now. And I'm not gonna lie, somehow it's even more satisfying to see Orochi grovel for his life in the anime, because again, the Seiya really sells just how desperate and pathetic he's become, just trying to anything to escape and save himself, and yet none of it's working. You just love to see assholes like this finally get the justice they deserve. And honestly, Orochi's line about seeking revenge being outdated had me going, bitch, what? Did you really just say that, motherfucker? Like, really, you of all people just said that revenge is outdated. Really. And, like, yeah. And even more ironic is the fact that is the last bit when we see Kanjuro's essence approach Orochi, and Orochi orders him to burn Hiyori, but instead he ends up just collapsing and burning Orochi on accident, his most loyal subordinate. Like, again, the irony is palpable, really. Now, again, the episode isn't perfect. There is still one or two things. There is still something about the art and animation. Even though I did like the art and animation in this episode, there is still one major thing that wasn't great about it, which is to say, the thing about the art and animation in this episode is that even though it was amazing just to see Gear 5 Joy Boy Luffy fully animated, it is also kind of one of those things where the animation itself, there are a few moments where the animation itself kind of has, where the more watercolor-esque like aspects of the animation aren't as do kind of stand out as a little bit jarring in some ways, and I don't know if it was intentional or not, but it just looked that way. And honestly, there are even some moments, and the other thing is, there are some moments in this episode that, while beautifully animated, are also a little hard to make. Well, animated amazingly, are also a little bit hard to make out, and are just running by so fast that sometimes you got to kind of pause a moment just to see what you're looking at. Like, I had to pause the moment of Luffy kind of bringing the like lifting up the ground to kind of stop the blast breath, because I didn't know, like, wait, what was he doing, kind of thing. So yeah, there's that too. And I guess in general, the only other thing I really maybe didn't like about this episode is I wish we got to see more of the fight between Kaido and Luffy, because for as amazing as this episode was in showcasing Joy Boy's return, Joy Boy's and Luffy's introduction as like the new Joy Boy, I do admit that maybe they spent a little too much time on it in the first chunk of the episode, and it did make me wish we have a little bit more time focused on the actual fight itself, because between Luffy and Kaido. Because, again, it did feel like for all the time the episode spent on Joy Boy Gear 5, that there wasn't much room for the actual fight to breathe. But I guess the more important part there is that with Luffy back in action and with this new power, we get to see from Kaido's perspective and how he's practically jumping for joy that his victory wasn't ruined for him, and that he still has this chance to not only enjoy the fight with Luffy for a bit longer, but that he'll finally know once and for all if he's truly the strongest, or if he'll finally have met his match and finally be defeated by someone who's just as strong, if not stronger, than he is. With that said, the episode also comes with a brand new ending and ending whatnot. And while I'm not gonna say it's full of spoilers, be wary for anyone who hasn't seen the ending yet, as there are still some spoilery elements to it. Just saying. But, yeah, guys, that's all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, Analyst Crunchyroll, be sure to notification bell, hit the subscribe button, and just share the video around, guys. Dark Knight of Night signing off. Later, everyone.